me and my old man, we had an incredible relationship. Like, he was my best friend. I took the worst thing I've ever been through, the slow, agonizing death of my father, the trauma that came with caring for him, and bandage him up and run him to the hospital and do all these things that were horrific in the moment. I've turned around and I've helped people through those same scenarios. And as a byproduct, I found a deep sense of fulfillment. In a way, this felt like my coming of man ritual. There can be no ascension without tension. We move up and level up when we put ourselves in tense situations, hard conversations, difficult decisions. That's how we really level up. And now, coming out of the toughest chapter of my life, I think who we are on the other side of trials, in a way, defines us. Let perseverance run its course so that you may be complete and lacking nothing.
Hello friends, I have a really quick favor to ask. We are honored that you are listening to this show and I hope you're enjoying it, but we can make it even better with your help. If you like, subscribe, and share Radical Health Radio, we promise to make it even more radical. Your support means the world. Let's get back to it. Michael Smoak, Mr. HigherUp Wellness, you are on a generational run for the ages, my friend. Are you enjoying this? What is it like?
I'm waiting for the horseshoe to fall out of my ass. I feel so lucky, man. I'm loving every minute of it. I feel more like myself than I have ever in my life, probably, at least that I can remember, coming out of a really difficult season of life with a lot of shifts, changes, and identity challenges. And I feel now more like me than I ever have. So I feel like I'm on path with what God's calling me to do. I feel like I'm meeting incredible people like you. I think we threw this together in 48 hours.
Yeah, we did.
From terms of introduction, conception to now inception. And I'm humbled and honored that you decided to spend some time with me. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, man. It's a true blessing. You came onto my radar kind of out of nowhere, probably 12-ish to 18 months ago. It was this HigherUp Wellness speaking challenge all over TikTok. And I was like, where has this come from? Who is this guy? And then I just loved your overall message, but more than anything, the vibe, just the authenticity, your ability to communicate ideas, and the challenge to everybody else to try and pay that forward, get out there and tell your own story. But you just said something that I think is really important, that you feel more like yourself than you felt in maybe forever. What does that actually feel like? What are you feeling?
You know, there was this tension. So some background, I was telling you, I'm a full-time nomad now. And some people don't even know what I mean when I say that, but I am nomadic. I am without a home. I've been calling it controlled homelessness for the last few weeks. I ended my lease in Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm from, grew up, and have lived my whole life. I put all my stuff in storage, and by storage, I mean the basement of my loving mother. Thank you, Mom. And only took the bare essentials with me on the road. And I'm driving across the United States. And I did that for a lot of reasons. Number one, I have always associated a big sense of my okayness with the feeling of having a domicile, a sense of routine, my apartment, my things, my stuff, my regimen. And my ability to self-regulate lied within having my own space. Number two, I'd always grown up in Atlanta. I'd always known Atlanta. I had never lived anywhere else. I'm grateful for that place and might call it home again one day. But my coach said something to me. I work with a performance coach of sorts. His name is Kian Lagi. And he said something to me in one of our calls that really struck me. He said, the more things we need to feel okay, the more fragile we are. And I realized that a big part of my okayness was tied to a home, having a home and a regimen. And in order to get my nervous system more resilient and be more okay in tension, discomfort, a little bit of chaos, moving around Airbnb to Airbnb, I decided to rip everything that made me comfortable out from under me. And so I did. I also hate driving quite a bit. So I figured, why not drive across the entire continental U.S. to lean more into that tension. And as a byproduct of doing so many difficult things and now coming out of the toughest chapter of my life, I think who we are on the other side of trials, in a way, it defines us.
Yes.
I think we choose how it defines us, but we are more complete in the identity we choose to have on the other side of hardship, difficulty, and tension. I love that word for describing hardship and challenges, tension. And I'm in tension right now all the time, every day, but I feel more like myself because I feel inherently like I'm in pursuit of something. And I think that's when I feel the most tapped in with the messages that I think God is placing on my heart.
Yeah, that's beautiful. When you were saying that about kind of trying to collapse these safety nets, if you will, to see how resilient you are, what struck me is you said, like, removing the home. But then there's this cliche idea that home is where the heart is. And if you're really connected to your heart, then you're almost always home, regardless of where you go in geography and space, right? And I heard you say recently in an interview that one of the things you're really seeking more of and asking the question of yourself is, does this bring me more love? And if it does, then it's a yes. How are you continuing to use this experience of going nomadic to connect deeper to your heart and pursue things that are love-making for you, happy-making for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love defining the life as surrounded and measured by and with values, both towards and away values, which I got from Tony Robbins. And
The GOAT.
he believes the GOAT.
He's the
And
best.
I got to go to Date with Destiny in December, and I saw why he's your favorite coach's favorite coach. He really is incredible. Public speaking for 10 hours, coaching people out of suicidal ideation, broken marriages live and in person. It's incredible. And he believes people who are pushing towards success are just that. They're pushing. And he believes in order to live a truly fulfilled life, we need to be pulled towards certain things. And we also need to be pushed away from others. So I defined my towards values, the feelings that I want to be pulled towards. Love was one of them. And one of the, to give greater context to this, one of the away values I had was guilt. If something makes me feel guilty, I know that that is an away value, that is a message. And so I want to move away from things that cause me to feel guilt, which in turn will keep me aligned with my morals and ethics. If I'm conscious of something that makes me feel guilty and I move back towards love, I'm back in line with my ethics, morality, and my heart space. So on this journey, one of the things that makes me feel the most connected to love is saying yes to more experiences. I was very picky and particular and focused on a lot of, I guess, more selfish desire back in Atlanta. And I was saying no to a lot. But on the road, I'm saying yes to podcasts like this one. I said, hell yes, I'd love to do this. I'd love to go meet Steve and see the Heart and Soil compound, because I feel the most connected to myself when I'm connecting with other people.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the very origin of human experience. So that's the number one thing I'm doing.
Yeah. I love it, pun intended. I heard recently, this resonated so deeply with me, that love feels good. Love feels right because it's what we are made of. And that fear feels wrong or bad or icky because it's the opposition force to that. And then to think about how powerful it is then to infuse your life with more love is to be in support of life itself. Like, life supports that which supports life. I think by saying yes to adventure, now granted, everybody's got to kind of weigh where they're at with that. Like, I don't have probably near as many DMs as you do and people clamoring for attention and opportunities. But I did spend a significant amount of my life traveling, and it taught me more about love and people and me, and it strengthened my relationship with my now wife, Nicole, in ways that nothing else ever came close to. So I'm just reliving vicariously through you on this epic adventure, because it's the best, man. Saying yes to the adventure of life, saying yes to love, saying yes to connection and conversations, because what's the worst thing that can happen?
Exactly. I really believe, to your point about travel, I know that not everybody is in the position in their life right now to do that. But if you have the blessing of mobility, you have to take it. I'm 28. I've got no mortgage, no wife, no kids that I know of. And this feels, when I think about your question earlier, what does it feel like to feel the most like myself? I feel like a kid. I think God calls us to have childlike faith, to be childlike in our life. And as we grow up, we stop doing things that we did when we were kids. And one of the things that I associate this with is when I was a kid growing up in the South, we'd get out in the woods and walk along the creek for hours and just go get lost. We didn't know what we were coming up on. We didn't know where we were going, but it was me and my friends just whittling spears with sticks and our pocket knives and just doing a bunch of stupid shit as little boys. And I feel like that little kid going through the wilderness again. And I think that's part of why I feel so tapped in with myself.
Yeah, it's incredible. What a feeling.
Yeah.
What a feeling. But it came through, like you've teased, one of the most difficult chapters of your life. You've recently gone through a dark night of the soul. One of the most difficult things people can go through, grief and loss. Take me on a little bit of a journey now. You're just past a year, right? The anniversary death date of your father.
Yeah, thank you for remembering that. Yeah, I feel like I've officially gone on to the other side of the dark night of the soul. I've seen that talked about a little bit. This is interesting. I've never talked about it this way on a podcast, but I will now because it feels like it's right. I feel called to discuss it. One of my very best friends, Chris Turner, back in Atlanta, his dad passed about 8 months before mine. And when my dad was at the peak of his sickness and we had already gotten the news that there was nothing they could do, he wasn't going to get better, I was really broken up because me and my old man, we had an incredible relationship. Like, he was my best friend. He's the guy that as soon as this wraps, I'd go out and I pick up the phone and call him and tell him about it. Like he'd be so, I know he is so hyped that I'm doing this journey, this big adventure. In a way, this felt like my coming of man ritual. In other cultures all over the world, there's this thing that the boy has to go do, go off, leave the village, come back a man. And in the States, we don't have that. It's just sort of you go through puberty and then you can vote and then you're in college and then you got to go buy a house.
Yep.
And it's like, fuck, where did the transition happen? In a way, the death of my dad, and not only the death, but the relationship we had being so tight and so special, and everything that happened before to put me back home in my childhood home with him to care for him and ultimately become his full-time caretaker the last 6 months of his life. Number one, it solidified my belief in God, because if you look at what happened before that to put me back in my childhood home, you just couldn't tell me it's coincidence. And one of the first things my dad said to me when he started going downhill and we were trying to figure it out, and he was leaning on my health and wellness advice, we got off the phone with a doctor and he was walking out of his office and he turned around and he said, I know you're here for a shitty reason, but I think you're here for this too. Because the reason I was there is that I ended a 5-year relationship where we lived together and blew up my whole life as I knew it and had to move home to regroup and lick my wounds. But I think God put me there to care for him and to give me 6 of the final months I had with my best friend. And I'm so grateful for that. And that journey was horrific. It was traumatizing. It was consistent emotional distress from the time I opened my eyes to the time I shut them. It's, is he going to fall? Is he going to need my help? It's, you know, I got to bathe him today. I got to feed him. I got to cook for him. And then all the while I'm having to build this business and be a content creator and show up for a bunch of people who look to me for advice and train for a high rock. So I was doing something really physically distressing during all this emotional distress. And most days, Steve, I just didn't want to get out of bed. That's the truth. I think in that 6 months, I really felt what depression felt like. And I felt like I had to peel myself out of bed. But I did. I did the workouts. I showed up for my dad. I showed up for my mom. I showed up for myself. I showed up for my clients, for the people that watch my videos. And I was very open about where I was at. I told them what was happening. I told them I was struggling. And one of my biggest core messages was the importance of doing things whether you feel like doing them or not. And I think I lived that in its purest sense. And so I empathize with people when they go through hardship, but I don't allow themselves to excuse themselves out of doing what they need to do, because I know what it's like to be in emotional agony and still have to do something as seemingly insignificant as go train or post that piece of content. And the day he died, and then his funeral and his eulogy, I remember those days thinking about them as a little boy, wondering how I was going to get through them. And I did. And the version on the other side of that feels more like a man than I ever have. But in a way, I feel like I'm looking out for the kid in me in a way that I was never aware of. And it's just the two things are so synchronous. And I feel, to wrap this thought up, more like me than I ever have on the other side of the worst thing I've ever been through. Which is why I love the quote, our misery is our ministry. I took the worst thing I've ever been through, the slow, agonizing death of my father, the trauma that came with caring for him and having to bandage him up and run him to the hospital and do all these things that were horrific in the moment. I've turned around and I've helped people through those same scenarios. And as a byproduct, I found a deep sense of fulfillment and purpose. And I'll close this question out with this scripture that I love, James chapter 1, verse 2-4. I reference it often. Count it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds, because you know the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance run its course so that you may be complete and lacking nothing. I'm more complete as a man, a human, a future husband and father, a son, than I have ever been as a byproduct of the death of my father, and I am grateful for that.
Amen to that, man. Very well said.
Thank you.
I think that I speak on behalf of a lot of people when I say the way in which you not only navigated this, but was so open and vulnerable and honest in allowing us a glimpse behind the curtain was really, really powerful in ways you might not understand. I think it forces us to confront our own relationship with our dads, knowing that it's coming one day, whether we like it or not. This is kind of the beautiful burden of life, is that the things that we love will one day perish. And it's really hard to reconcile with. It forced me to ask questions like, if that was happening right now, what's left unsaid that needs to be said? What's left undone? And I'm really curious, because of the nature of the way your father slowly his health started to leave him, and the level of care you had to give him, becoming his primary caretaker. What a shift in roles that is, right? Your superhero who looked after you and did everything for you. The roles are reversed physically. And I'm curious, how did he meet you in those moments when he's obviously going through his own loss and his own degeneration of body, and his son is the one that's picking him up and putting him in the bath and cleaning him? Like, how did he meet you in those moments?
It's a beautiful question, and no one's really asked me that, but it was a huge dynamic in our relationship. Just imagine a guy born in the early 50s and the pride and the hard-headedness they already have as just old dudes. They're just bullheaded.
Yep.
They have a way of doing things. My dad was 71 years old when he passed. So I'm 28, my parents had me older. My mom was 41. Sorry, Mom. I know you're probably pissed if I just said that. She's an angel on earth. She's the kindest woman I've ever met. And my dad was 44. So it was non-traditional in the way they didn't have me when they were in their 30s. They were both married. They actually dated when they were my age, broke up because my dad was, in his words, a bit of a dickhead, and got married to other people, got back together in their late 30s, early 40s, and my dad said I couldn't let her go again. And they had me, and my mom had my brother and sister in a previous marriage. But meeting me in those moments, man, you ask that question and one thing comes up, one memory comes up. It's probably in the last 30 days of his life. I'll be very open and frank, and I don't know if graphic's the right word, but we were getting ready to go to his appointment. My dad had symptoms adjacent to liver failure. He didn't have liver failure. He actually never received a formal diagnosis for what caused him to die, which is a really complicated part of all of this. But for sake of brevity, it was a lot like cirrhosis of the liver. And one of the things he had was what's called ascites, fluid buildup in the abdomen. And so every week we would have to go get that drained. And they would pull a gallon or more of fluid off my dad's abdomen.
Wow.
And that came with a whole host of other complications. And, I remember it was so hard for him for so long to take the help from me, because he was the guy that changed my diapers and bathed me and fed me, and now the roles have been reversed. And so the pride piece, the humility, the pride piece, the ego piece, we both just had to be dropped into a deep state of humility. And I remember one day that I was trying to put his shoes on, but his feet were swollen, and I was really struggling, and I was down on the foot of the bed, and he was sitting on the edge like this, and I'm down here on my knees trying to put his shoes on, and he just reaches on my shoulder blades. And I still get emotional thinking about this moment, as I just knew we were close. And he reaches down on my shoulder blades and kind of pats my traps, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he just smiles and says, I'm looking for your wings. You're my angel right now, and you're getting me through this. And I'm sorry excuse me. I'm sorry it has to be you, but I'm glad it is. And I felt the same way, man. It was really a gift to be able to do that for him. And he met me in those spaces in a way that made me so certain of who he was as a man. He had every piece of identity that a man can associate himself with ripped from him. Caretaker, provider, protector, sales guy, golfer, all of these things. He had this incredible autonomy just taken from him. From traveling 4 times a week to bedbound in 6 months. And he never changed. He never changed. He never raised his voice. He never cried. He cracked jokes. He was present. He was still teaching me things, whether he realized it or not, up until he took his last breath. And that is how he met me. And that if I can do half of that for my kids, the people that have to care for me when I'm in that much pain and agony every day, I'll be proud of myself.
That's so powerful. And thank you for going there. I know that's, as you're speaking and getting emotional, I'm getting emotional, and I'm in this middle of this arc now where I'm a dad to children, and I have my dad, and I'm just like feeling all of that. It's just like, it's so real, it's so pure, and it's so hard. And, I know we both like to bro out and get under the barbell and lift weights, but if you want to talk about a definition of strength, it's who are you at your lowest, let's call it, when every identity you've got that you've clinged onto for some sense of safety and structure is gone from you, and you're just left with nothing but what a soul, that's in those final moments, and to be strong in those moments. I guess that's, the final analysis, like what are we made of? What have we built on? And that's a wonderful example that you have. As unfortunate as it is to have to go through that, like what a blessing also. And I guess that such is life, right? The two sides of the coin, agony and bliss, and love and hate, and up and down, and fat and thin. There's no up without down. So
yeah, to experience the sorrow and the pain that I did means that once we had an incredible love and bond. And
right.
I would rather have that than the lukewarm relationship many people have with their parents. One of the things he said to me was, randomly one day we were sitting outside. It was at the point he was on a walker. He was weak, and I just wanted to get him out in the sun. And I recorded, and we can talk about this. I recorded as much as I could with my old man. I even shot a series of podcasts with him that aren't going anywhere. They're going to be for me and my kids and my family. But we were sitting on the hood of my car. He was just leaning up against it, that car out there that I pulled up in, and put the camera face down just to capture the audio. And we're sitting in the silence, birds are chirping, the sunlight is on his face, and he's just kind of sitting there with his eyes closed. I think he was praying, and he just said, maybe our relationship is so special because we knew we wouldn't have as much time as everybody else. It's unusual to lose. I don't say you lose. I use that word very intentionally, that a parent passes at my age. It's a weird age because I'm not a kid, I'm not 17, but I'm not an adult yet. There's still things he's supposed to be here for, weddings, grandkids.
Yeah.
And I think he was right. I think it felt like in this moment we kind of knew deep down all along that I wasn't going to be like my best friends and have their parents till they were in their 40s and had a life and a family and all these things figured out. I think this is part of my story, and it has to be.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Do you think you would be doing what you're doing right now with the pace and the haste and the ascension if it weren't for the passing of your father at this time?
No, I don't think I'd have the fire that I do. I started this because I needed a place for my passion to go, and it's now gone from passion to mission. It feels different. I tell everybody the reason I started creating content was because I wanted to have a place to put what I love out into the world. I didn't have anybody in my life that really cared to get in depth, except for my best friend, Will. Shout out you, Will, who I talked to this afternoon. He's still one of my very best friends, creating content as well, running a successful coaching business. And he and I used to call each other in college in 2017 when he was in Cornell in Ithaca, New York, and I was in Kennesaw, Georgia. And we talked for hours about fitness, nutrition, and health. And those conversations are sacred to me. They're such a big piece of what I talk about today. But outside of each other, there's no one in my life that really wanted to go there with me. And that's okay. We all have our own interests. But it felt isolating. I'd listen to the latest Huberman Lab about the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, and I just go, I got to tell somebody about this. And most people were like, not me, somebody else, for God's sakes. And that's fair. And so I treated content like a video diary.
Yeah.
This is my stream of consciousness. If you want to listen, come on. And it felt like fun and a passion project, and now it feels like a part of my purpose and what I was put here to do and what God's calling me to do. And that's why the messaging changes so much, where I talk about faith, I talk about mindset, I talk about grief, fitness gets interwoven. But the last thing I'll say is one of the core messages I had in my content, one of my first really viral pieces of content was a quote that I heard from Aubrey Marcus, which is, and I don't think it's his, but we have a laundry list of health problems until we have we have a laundry list of problems until we have a health problem. And then there's one problem.
Yep.
And yet we take out loans in the form of poor sleep, bad habits, and chronic stress that we can't pay back. And I believed that, but then I got to watch it happen. And I got to watch a guy who, after being a two-sport athlete in college, didn't choose health for 50 years. And who knows how much of a byproduct that was of his diagnosis. Everybody wants to smoke that cigarette or smoke that pack a day or drink the 2 glasses of wine every night or carry that 50 pounds of body fat until they get a phone call about a test. And then they wish they would have made a lot of little decisions differently every day. And so the conviction that I have is just at an entirely different level because I've seen what it looks like when you don't choose health. It's not about vanity. It's not about abs. It's about stacking the deck in your favor so that you don't have to be the person that puts your family in pain. Because I think ultimately not choosing health is selfish. And I want people to deeply understand that. And my content makes a lot of people mad as a byproduct of that. And if I'm hated for it, if I'm made mad, if I make people mad by it, so be it.
Yes.
I'm willing to die on that hill.
Yeah. Well, I love that. You had quite a spicy one this morning. Hello cupcake or whatever you kicked it off with. And then just immediately, napalm truth bombed everybody on some tough love truths. And as you well know, one of the best podcasts I think you've done and had was with Peter Crone, just an amazing mind and guy and heart. But he said something along the lines of, where you're triggered is your therapist.
Yes.
And I think I know there's another creator called James Smith. He's an English guy. I don't know whether you're familiar with him, but he says, my advice is a bit like chemotherapy. Like, you're going to feel like it's killing you, but it's trying to make you better. Like, that's how brutal it is. And in some ways, when I watch some of your stuff, I'm like, yeah, I resonate, because I take the tough love approach oftentimes too. Because what I'm trying to then invite people into is, oh, you're triggered by this? Then take a look in the mirror. Mm-hmm. It's here not just to take dumps on you or pretend I'm better than you in some way. I'm trying to kind of shake you awake, let's say. Because what you started so beautifully with before about the push and pull values, there's something very similar in the motivation world, which is towards or away.
Yeah.
Like, away from motivation is reacting to that painful diagnosis. Like, you ignored your health for 3 decades. And then you got that call from the doctor, and now it's time to, figure something out because you're looking down the barrel of an early death. And wouldn't it be a lot more hopeful for people to be moving more towards a life of longevity and vitality as opposed to running away from the scary diagnosis? And I think that's why it needs to be like chemotherapy sometimes, and it needs to be tough love sometimes, because the truth is, I think it would be wonderful if everybody was so proactive. But we're reactive creatures in so many ways. A lot of the time, we just don't change until it gets shitty, until we break something. And I just think you're doing a wonderful job there, obviously, as is being validated by the world. There's no mistake that you have millions of followers online. When did you realize you had something, though? Because at some point, you've got to be like just putting it out and wondering what the hell you're doing. And at a certain point, you've got to go, wait a minute, I think I got something here.
Yeah, I love that analogy. The chemotherapy analogy is I've never heard that.
That's a good
fantastic.
One, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that from you at some point. I'd rather be kind than be nice. There's a very big difference in the two. When I realized I had something, I think I got very lucky. I think I was blessed. The content caught traction quickly, primarily on TikTok. That's my larger platform. That's where I started. That's what changed it all for me. Instagram was a few months after. But I think I went viral for the first time on March 8th, 7th or 8th of 2023.
Okay.
And that might have been somewhere between my 5th and 10th video.
Wow.
Ever. And it was called Protein 101. And I did a visual. I was doing all these things that I didn't know were real.
Yeah.
Like I hit the camera against my head to sort of like jar your eyes, and that's a visual hook. And I just got right into the video. I didn't have any fluff where people say, hey guys, let me talk to you about this. I just said Protein 101. Here we go. Here's how much you really need. Video was less than a minute. And it was that video that I realized that I did have something. What I realized in that moment was that the skills I had built in my academic career, my college degree, and my professional career, they're both still skill sets that I use. So my college degree is in what's called professional sales, which is all communication, public speaking, and human psychology. I use a lot of that today. And then I was in sales for 3 years. So my job was connecting with people, and I knew how to do it. And I'd stood and sat in front of people, had hard conversations for so many years. And I translated those skills. And when I realized I had something, I remember the girl I was dating at the time, I posted that video right after the gym, call it 5 p.m. I get home at 6 and I open the app and it's got 50,000 views.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in bed with her that night and we're just refreshing and the following count is just going up. It's like 6,000, 6,200, 6,500, right. 7,000. And I hit 10,000 followers in 3 hours and we were freaking out. And then I just realized, I didn't realize I had a business. I didn't realize that it was going to be any of this. I didn't even really know what internet fame and virality was. That wasn't a world that I was aware of. But I knew that it was helping people because the feedback was extremely positive. Yep. And so I just said, okay, more fitness content. Yep. I'm going to keep doing takes like this. It's clear. This is something I want people to understand. So much of what you find obvious is completely novel to somebody else.
So important, dude. That's
You know,
so important.
We know you probably need to eat between 0.8 and a gram per pound of protein. We know calories matter. We know you need to strength train with progressive overload. That's like knowing the sky is blue to us.
Yeah.
But that's life-changing information to somebody else. And so whatever you're holding on to, whatever you're holding back is a gift for somebody else. That's when I realized the years of having nowhere to put my knowledge, of listening to 1,000 hours of podcasting, wondering why I cared about it so much. I realized then, oh, this is what I was preparing for. This is what God was going to put me into. And it's all paying off. That lonely era that I've heard Chris Williamson talk about with Hormozy, it's all making sense now.
Yeah.
And so that was when I realized I had something.
That's really cool. That's such a good reminder, dude, for anybody that's listening that is a content creator or thinking about being one. And I've done it. I've done this to myself so many times. I'm not going to make that. Everybody's already done it. Like, this is too basic. No, it's not, because it just, there's billions of people on the planet, billions, and millions of them have never heard the thing that you think everybody knows. And another thing that's really interesting and adjacent to that is thinking that just because something comes easily to you, that it's not valuable. Because we have this perception that if something's valuable, it has to be really hard. So you might, and I know you don't because you've figured this out and it's what you're teaching is resonating so much, but if communication came so easily to you, then you might inherently just be like, well, that can't be that valuable because it's come so easy to me. But maybe it only comes easy to you because it's a combination of your natural gifts, but also a lot of hard work. So I think sometimes we don't say the thing because we think it's too basic, and we don't lean into our strengths because we think they're not impressive because they come easy to us. And I think they're two of the biggest things you have to really try and like control, alt, delete out of your mind if you're going to get into the role of content. Like, actually keep it basic, keep it simple. Your whole mantra is, what is your mantra again?
It isn't easy, but it is simple.
Yes,
Don't overcomplicate it.
Don't overcomplicate it. Why is simplicity so important to you? Why is that woven into your message so much?
Well, you know, Occam's razor says the simplest explanation is usually the most likely. And to further that point, some of the most profound truths of success, fulfillment, purpose, whatever that looks like, financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, are remarkably simple. They're not sexy.
Yeah.
It's like Hormozy says, 90% of extraordinary success can be boiled down to doing the obvious thing for an extraordinary period of time.
Yeah.
The only thing extraordinary about it is the time horizon. And when people accept fully that the things they want, the life they want, the mindset they want, the body they want is actually incredibly simple, not easy, but simple, then they're stripped of all excuses as to why they can't have it. And they have no choice but to stand in the face of radical accountability and extreme ownership. And I'm living in the proof right now as we have this conversation, as the adventure continues, that I just decided to do something. I didn't overcomplicate the process. I did a little bit of research. I allowed myself to feel a little bit foolish, but silenced my ego as I learned any new skill. When I look back on my old videos, I cringe. They're awful.
Yeah, right.
But I couldn't be here now without the awful videos.
That's right.
I look back at the days I was doing the bro diet and eating 6 meals a day and training 6 days a week and eating egg whites and almond butter and a bunch of shit I hated. But I couldn't have been in the life now where I can have a body that I'm proud of and run marathons impromptu, but also still go out and have a cocktail and a burger or be with friends, have a social life, if I wasn't in that period of figuring it out and doing it wrong.
Yeah.
It was simple. I just had to keep failing forward. I love the quote, there are no failures, only feedback.
Yep.
And so I think people just need to decide what they want simply. What life do you want? Simply put, I want to be fit. I want to be fulfilled. I want to have a husband. I want to have a wife. I want to have kids. I want to have land, whatever. And then figure out what you think the straightest path is and just start trying things. That's the simple truth, is a lot of people who have what you want just didn't sit and ruminate on how to get it.
Yeah.
They just started putting inputs in.
Yeah.
And they got outputs back in the form of feedback. Well, that didn't work. Time to pivot.
That's right.
And then something hits.
Simple scales and fancy fails. Another Hormozyism, right? And I like have this on the inside of my eyelids tattooed. It's a reminder. I actually don't have it tattooed. I don't think you can do that.
I never.
It wouldn't.
You're covered in ink. It would, yeah, that's plausible.
Maybe I do. It's on the OnlyFans. Messy action behind the eyelids, because it's the permission slip to prioritize for the most important thing, which is action, but the permission slip to let it be messy. All of these people that are waiting to produce something, or waiting to launch a product, or waiting to start talking to the camera, until they feel ready. Spoiler alert, you're never going to feel ready. You get ready through the messy reps, right? And that was a game changer for me to realize it can be messy. And the only way that it's going to get to a Michael Smoak level one day is by being messy when you start. The first video you put out, like you say, you probably look at it through your own distorted lens because we're our own harshest critics, but it won't hold a candle to your level of ability to communicate now because you've got thousands and thousands of reps, similar to how you cannot go in the gym on day one and bench 315. You got to work up to that stuff. And I think it's just a very important reminder because it is simple. It really is simple. And it demystifies it. It empowers somebody if they're willing to take that responsibility, that this isn't then some genetic gift or a lottery, or you need to be of extreme privilege to exercise these things. You just need to be willing to ask the hard question is, do I want it bad enough? And am I willing to do what is being asked of me?
Yes. My pastor that back in Atlanta, Philip Mitchell, at 2819 says, the truth makes people do one of two things. They either lean in or they push away from the table. And that truth, it is simple. It's simply a silencing of the ego to allow yourself to look silly at something until you figure it out, to allow it to be cringe until it works. Or you say, no, it just can't be that simple. I'm going to stay wrapped up in my victim narrative, which I also see in my comments and my DMs, and that's okay. Some people will stay stuck, and I'm not the thing to jumpstart or catalyze their journey. I hope something does one day, but a lot of people never do and take their ambition and aspirations to the grave.
Yeah.
And that is one of my biggest fears. And another thing that I think watching my dad slowly die was so incredible was I watched a man who lived seriously one of the craziest, most fulfilling lives I've ever seen. I mean, the dude had lore, as the kids would call it. He did crazy shit growing up. Side quest maxing. Had a crazy best friend named Danny. They did shit that I probably couldn't say on this podcast still because the statute of limitations has not come up yet. And he was such a good dad and such a good husband and so good at his job, unbelievable at his job. And yet when he got sick, he thought so much about all the things he didn't do and all the things he wished he would have done more of. I remember him showing up every time I needed him being at the games, him coaching the teams, but also being a road warrior and in his job and being a golfer. But he said so many times, I just should have been around more. It's like when we get into that state where we know it's over and there's no more opportunities, my dad had these 6 or 7 things he would say to me often, almost like Pavlovian conditioning under the same circumstances. And every time we were in the car together and a sunset was happening, we'd catch it. And he would say, there goes another one. No dress rehearsals. Make every single one count. And don't forget every day to take a moment to take a step back, take a deep breath, look around and look up. And just remember that you're here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And he got that feeling of, oh shit, the dress rehearsals have come and passed.
Yeah. And
he focused on what he didn't do. And I want to minimize my opportunity to do that at the end of my life.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of something I heard once, and I hope I'm getting this completely correct, but it was from the indigenous peoples of the islands of Hawaii. And they have a saying, hokahe. And hokahe means it's a good day to die. And the only way that you can say it's a good day to die when time does come is if you've lived the fullest life that you possibly can. An invitation, if you will, from more of the Stoic lens, memento mori, to keep death as your ally, to remind you to live a good life. Because the truth about death is we don't know when it's coming. Yeah. I think we all hope that it is decades and decades away, but we don't know. Any tragedy could strike at any moment. And that should be the motivation to maximize the day and the days that we have, because they could be short, to do everything that we can to create the law, to side quest max, to just go after what lights our heart up as much as humanly possible. Because when time does come, I think that's the only way we do get to say hokahe and not have a life of regret of like, man, I wish I'd have done this more. There's that famous palliative care. She wrote a book, I'm blanking on the name right now, but the End of Life Care Nurse. And all she did was ask people. And the book is like the top 10 regrets of the dying. And it's all the stuff you can probably think of. It's like, I probably worked too much. I wasn't present enough. I should have said I love you more. I should have gone after that adventure. I should have traveled more. I shouldn't have put in so much stress and overtime. Like I should have played more. I should have adventured more. And I know it's easy to say sometimes, and the reason they feel cliche is probably because they're true. But man, if you don't take inspiration from the stories, like what else can you take inspiration from? You have to go. You have to get, if it has to come through a painful path, then so be it. But you then have to use that, because that's how you honor your father, right? That's how you honor the gift that has come through the grief.
Exactly. I view a lot of what I'm doing in this nomadic journey, of which I might be on for the next 6 months or the next year. I think this does honor him, is taking that big, bold risk. He would always come back to when I was making decisions and involving him or my mom when he was still around and sick. He just kept saying, you got to live your life, your life. And your life, I think, is going to be different than we thought when you were growing up. And I think that this is the purest form of living my life. I really can't describe how tapped in I feel with that little 6-year-old in me that just is curious about what the day is going to bring. You know, 3 days ago, I didn't know we were going to do this, or whenever it was. And here we are on the Heart and Soil compound recording a podcast talking about the things that we love. How lucky are we?
Yeah.
It's actually a gift. We're in play right now. Like, this is, people need more play in their lives.
Yeah.
They truly, truly do. We just stop and we become tight asses, and we don't develop any time to just, for lack of a better term, fuck around a bit.
Yes.
And the more opportunities you have to fuck around a bit and be a kid, I think the longer you live and the happier you feel.
Dude, so much. Yes. There's the old Chinese proverb that we don't stop playing because we grow old, but we grow old because we stop playing. And I love that you literally just used the term tight asses, because people have heard it on this podcast. So I'm going to say it again. A rule for life that will just collapse everything down from there in a positive way is relax your butthole.
Yeah.
Just fucking relax, man. Play a little bit more. Life is hard. It's serious business. We get that, but you don't need to add to it with all of this like and being so mad all the time. Like, try and inject a little bit more play in your life. And if you don't know how to do that, then listen to stories of other people and just try it on for size. I mean, we're making it up as we go along anyway. We're constantly reinventing who we are. Why not reinvent in a positive way? Why not be a little bit of a joker? Why not have some fun? That's what I've always appreciated about some of my favorite teachers, is they've been profound and spiritual and tapped in, but they've also been a bit of a rascal.
Yeah.
You know, they've been dialed in with the diet, but they've also been able to say, it's a pint of Guinness and a burger tonight. It's that balance, right? Talk to me about how you're striking that balance.
The ability to play in both energies is incredibly important to be exceptional as a human. You almost want to have people confused or guessing.
Yes.
You know, I met a guy. A lot of my content, I have some playful, less serious stuff. I did a food review of a restaurant that I hated last night, and it was a humorous, sort of just a goofy video. Had nothing to do with my core messaging, but a lot of my content is more in that serious, tough love, if you will, realm, because that's really how I feel in the moment.
Yeah.
But I met a guy last weekend after the marathon, and I was drinking a tequila and smoking a cigarette after the race, because I love celebrating with a cocktail and a cigarette. It's like all things in moderation, including moderation itself. And a dude was like, how are you doing this? I thought you were just like all into like hitting your protein goal and training. I was like, I just ran a half marathon, didn't I? It's like, what? Why can't I do both? He was like, I just didn't think. I was like, exactly. You didn't think that you could. Of course, the only rule in this life is that there are no rules. And, you know, one end of the spectrum is running 13 miles early in the morning with my friends and fueling for that and training for that. And then afterward, throwing a party at the Airbnb and getting a DJ and knocking back a few beers and smoking a few American spirits.
Yeah.
Do I do that all the time? Hell no. No, but when I do, I truly enjoy that, because it feels like a small piece of a fruit of my labor.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that by remembering there was a time in my life where I deprived myself of social gatherings to, at the time it was achieve and maintain a physique that really just sent me down a path of disordered eating. I won't go all the way to say I had an eating disorder, but it was close.
Yep.
I lost 60 pounds. I was fat my whole life, had self-image issues. And I stopped going out. I stopped drinking. I became a hermit, just staying at home. And then it led to just this cycle of binging and restricting. And when I would go out, I would binge drink, binge eat, do both. And then I realized that I was sacrificing my mental and social health to gain physical health, and that was not health.
Yeah.
You know, across the blue zones, it's not correlative that they all don't smoke cigarettes, that they all don't drink alcohol. The really big factors in the blue zones is they move a lot, and they have a deep sense of community.
Yeah.
That's it. Those are the Italians drink wine often, and they live well into their 80s.
Yeah.
But they're super active and outside a bunch, and they're deeply connected to their families and their community. And after the race, my community and family outing was having some beers and smoking a heater with my buddies. And that made me feel happy, present, dopamine's flowing, cortisol's down. And so in turn, longevity-wise, that probably actually helps me more than stressing over, should I have the quesadilla and the beer?
I agree.
Because then cortisol goes up, and who knows the longevity effects that has. I could go down the rabbit hole. I'm striking the balance by feeling into the energy of when it's time to be a little bit more locked in and when it's time to unclench my ass, as you would say. And we all have that barometer.
That's the one thing they're not measuring in the blue zones is how relaxed those buttholes are.
Oh,
That's what they really need to look at. Because I think they would find just like things just falling out of there.
Yeah.
You know, that's so relaxed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really well stated though. It's range is what it is. You know, like that shock factor of like, this healthy guy smoking a cigarette. It's like breaking people's brains because in the breakdown of that perceived like this is the way it should be, there's like a new possibility that, oh, maybe you can have that. Matt Johnson sat in that chair not that long ago, a couple of months ago.
Love Matt.
He's a
Went
wild
to church
man,
with
right?
him on Sunday.
Like, and all of his content from the marathon, same thing, like smoking cigs. And, you know, it's funny and it plays to the algorithm. But he was just saying, like, what it is trying to not pretend to be perfect, trying not pretend to be a saint. Like, we're human and we need to just honor what's alive in us at that moment. And also, he said that the 90% of my life is not that, but these moments can be celebrated in a way that is quote unquote bad from a longevity perspective. If you put Brian Johnson in that chair right now, Mr. I'll never die and I'm going to live forever and I don't even go outside without an umbrella, I'd probably be like, I think you have a very tight butthole and you need to smoke a cigarette and have some tequila with me outside right now. But he would never do it. You know what I'm saying? Because he's just like, longevity
I'm
over
gonna
longevity.
I'm going to get Brian Johnson to smoke an American Spirit with me. I'm going to say it's the healthiest tobacco. Come on, dude. A bit of neuroprotective nicotine, a bit of hormesis, a bit of stress on the body. Brian, I'm coming for you.
Let's go. Let's make that happen. We got to make that happen. We'll be here. With something that you've really leaned into, particularly recently, and I like this topic, I think it's really refreshing, is the importance of communication.
Sure.
Like, why is it so important for you to try and get people to think about that? Like cutting out filler words, things like that. Communication's big for you.
Yeah, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins' mentor, said communication is 20% what you say and 80% how you feel about what you say. And so much of how we show up on camera, on stage, at conferences, in interpersonal relationships, we can say a lot, but how we say it is ultimately going to be how it's perceived.
Right.
I mean, 55% of communication is nonverbal. Only 7% is actual spoken word. 55% is nonverbal. 38% is tonality, pitch, cadence, and delivery. 7% is actual word choice.
Wow.
So, I mean, I could say something to you right now, looking at you like this with my chest out, and then I could do this while I talk and close my shoulders down, and the messaging is going to be completely different.
Yeah, right. Even if the words were the same.
Correct.
Right.
And so if I'm having to have a hard conversation with my romantic partner or my boss or my subordinate, I am the boss, how I come across, if I start saying and like, and I beat around the bush through filler words and I don't just directly say what I'm feeling, I'm going to be subconsciously, albeit perceived as less confident.
Yes.
Clarity and conviction is perceived by those who hear it as competence and confidence. When you speak with clarity, you enunciate well, you get to the point, and you speak with conviction, like I can feel that you believe what you're telling me. Like when I talk about everybody having a laundry list of problems until they have a health problem, you can feel that I believe that because I've lived it. It's embodied. It's part of my identity.
Yep.
So clarity and conviction is perceived by those who hear it from you as competence and confidence. Politicians. They speak clearly, and whether they even believe it or not, they make you believe that they believe it. And then they're perceived as the smart ones in the room who should make decisions on behalf of the country. And so that's how important what we say is. But when you babble and you say like and and you drone on, you don't know how to land the plane, and you don't speak from your diaphragm, you speak from your throat because you're nervous. All of that affects how you are being perceived. There's billionaires and people who never made it with very similar, or dare I say, the same idea. And the guy who won here could explain himself a whole lot better. It's why I got so many job offers in corporate America. There were people more qualified, but when you put me in a public speaking setting to sell myself, I knew I could get my messaging across succinctly and believably because I did believe it. And so I think it's one of, if not the most important soft skill a human being can have. And I also want to teach people that it's not just this static skill set that you're born with. Oh, I stutter, or I just say like a lot because I just do, or I'm just quiet. No, it's a muscle.
Yeah.
And you can train it. You know, people's number one fear ahead of death
Mm-hmm.
in many surveys is public speaking.
Right.
So in my opinion, if I can conquer the thing that most people deem their number one fear, what can I do with my life?
Yeah.
If you're perceived as the guy who can public speak, you're perceived as an authority.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember the shoes that I had to fill thinking about that with my old man when family members passed, or we had to go to the family reunion and speak on behalf of the family. Like, my dad was the guy to give the message, and everybody knew he was that guy. He was the public speaker. I joked that if social media existed when he was born, he'd have 5 times the followers.
He'd have been him, top G.
Yeah, he'd be top G. And it was because he could move a room. And I think people think that they just can't do that, or they can't overcome that fear. But I attribute it to the same quality as the first time that you went to the gym and your hands were soft, and you pick up that barbell for a deadlift and you go, shit, that hurt. But now, 10 years of training later, we have these calluses that protect us. Public speaking, communication, getting in front of a camera, it's just a callus you have to build.
Yeah.
And you do it by going directly into the thing that makes you uncomfortable. That's why I think it's so important.
Yeah. And what an interesting time to be alive and to get to challenge that freely with things like social media, where I've heard you say, and many others have said something similar, it's kind of like playing the lottery. So not only are you going to get reps to improve a skill that benefits every single area of your life, whether it's romantically communicating your needs with a partner or on the career ladder, but also now you get to talk to your phone and potentially have something go bonkers and present a whole nother avenue of life that otherwise would have remained closed to you if you hadn't just talked to your bloody phone. Like, how crazy is the world that we live in currently?
Dude, it's insane. And the HigherUp Wellness Challenge that you alluded to earlier, I take no credit for that. I made a video and reposted it a couple of times, and it went viral each time, saying that communication is the number one skill that can change your life. You're only as good as your ability to tell your story. Point blank, period.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I just said, if you want to improve, because everybody's asking me how, do this. Set up your phone anywhere you feel comfortable, hit record. It has to be one take, 60 seconds, limit your filler words, talk about anything. Just do that and tell me that you don't feel more confident,
Right.
more brave, and that your communication doesn't improve. I did not say tag me and hashtag it HigherUp Wellness Challenge. I didn't say do this and let me know. Nope, none of that. Brandon and Reagan are 2 creators that I give most of the, if not all of the credit to for this. They were 2 of the early adopters of this. Brandon is a guy who in his car clipped my video and said, I saw this video and felt inspired, so I guess we'll call this the HigherUp Wellness Public Speaking Challenge. One video, 0 followers, overnight 5 million views.
That's insane.
Gymshark comments, the Cleveland Browns comment. All these brands are commenting. Now he's got 40K on TikTok
A
overnight.
literal lottery ticket.
Literally a lottery ticket to change his life.
Wow.
And he did it for 100 days. And Reagan did the same thing and built a following. And it's so cool to watch the evolution of how comfortable they've become. And now they're both just creators. Jet Franzen is another guy that comes to mind. He had 0 followers, did 100 days of the HigherUp Wellness Challenge. And now he's got, I think, 500,000 on TikTok and 300,000 on Instagram. And his takes are incredible.
Crazy.
And he just got out of his own way and started talking and just used the challenge as a launch pad for this new career in social media that he has. And I'm so humbled to even be a small part of it. It's so cool to watch. And I think it is the greatest. If that's what I retire on, if this all goes away tomorrow, I will be so proud to hang my hat on being a part of people getting out of their own way and doing the thing that scares them the most.
It's very cool. It's a real living testament also to the ripple effect that you can't possibly comprehend what it can turn into. Like, you just started to talk to your camera, you're kind of throwing pebbles in the pond and seeing what can happen. And the ripple over here is that people get healthier. But then it becomes this whole other thing. And now thousands of people are paying it forward. It's pretty radical. But I do want to talk to you about the blessing and the burden of social media.
Yeah.
Like the 2 sides to every coin too. You know, when you started this thing and you're turning it into a diary, it's one thing to encourage people to, why not shoot your shot? You know, why not cash a lottery ticket? If you've got nothing to lose, you have nothing to lose. That's actually a free pass. But then you start to acquire some status. You might start to acquire some brand deals. You might start to feel the pressure of, now there's eyeballs on me. People are looking to me. Do you feel that? Do you feel pressure to continue to just crush? Do you feel the pressure of cancellation campaigns? Do you feel the pressure of just the overwhelming weight to create all the time? Like, how do you manage social media?
The cancellation campaign. I'm fresh out of one of those. That was fun. That was an awesome experience. I view cancellation, assuming your ethics are intact and you feel morally sound, as an opportunity to find who's really aligned with you.
That's right. The ride or dies.
Yeah, one of my buddies was like, this is just going to cause everybody that never really supported you to fall away. You're going to catch some heat for 2 weeks, and then they'll forget. And the people who rocked with you from the start will now be loyal forever, and the people who find you will love your takes.
Yeah.
And he was right. It felt very authentic, and took a couple weeks, and it's mostly blown over. But I alluded to Kian earlier, a performance coach that I have, and I really think any high performer that wants more for themselves or wants to take things to the next level should work with Kian Lagi or have a conversation with him. And one of the things we talked about when I dip into those states, and I do, oh gosh, the page is growing, it's at 2 million or whatever, I've got to keep showing up a certain way. What do I do next? How do I keep growing and evolving? He'll just sort of mock me. He'll go, oh, it's so serious. Oh, what are you going to do? Oh, so many people that depend on you. And he makes me do that, right? He pulls me into a physiological state. Tony Robbins says often, if you want to change your state, change your state. He pulls me into laughter, which brings me a lightness, which brings me clarity. He allows me to express the thought, move through it, and then just says, like, you're being kind of a fucking idiot. Yeah. And helps me to realize that what got me here was being playful with it. And that the best thing I could do to remain authentic, because authenticity is what keeps people growing. People are craving authentic human connection, someone who is completely and totally themselves. Correct. Is the highest frequency we can vibrate at. And the way that you do that is just being childlike and being sort of, as he said on one of our calls, just be blissfully unaware of how things are going. Just, yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here with Steve. I don't know how I got here. I just keep posting. And that's really what I believe. Do I have moments where I feel pressure? Yeah, and I move through that energy and I notice it and I listen to what it's trying to tell me rather than let it consume me. And then I'll work through it and realize, oh, right. People are watching me because I'm not afraid to just be like a kid and stream of consciousness talk. And that can't ever change. I think it only gets hard when you allow it to become stressful. It's called content creation. It's creative. It's artistic. And Rick Rubin has this great analogy. He's worked with some of the greatest minds in music entertainment. He says the best pieces of art he's ever seen created, and I think the analogy he uses is the Under the Bridge album from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, is art made for the artist. Yeah. It's for them. And it was for them. It was a cathartic expression for them. And in turn, they helped thousands, millions of people. And so that's one of the things I turn to often is, where am I at? What do I want to create? What's the reminder I want to give myself? Because I know that's going to help somebody. And that keeps it light. It keeps it fun. It keeps the creative inspiration flowing. And it doesn't ever allow me to get too wrapped up and allow it to be my identity, which is the last piece. What I create, what I put on the internet, the brand HigherUp Wellness, that is not me. That is not my identity. That is not who I am. I'm Michael. I'm a son. I'm one day hopefully going to be a father and a husband. I'm a friend. I try to be a helper, a servant. And I know the identity that God and that Christ created me within. And that's where I sit very soundly. And that's how I stay so anchored, is really, above all else, knowing those things is my relationship with God. Keeps me incredibly grounded. And as long as I'm serving people and helping people and trying to, as my dad would say, just help one person, I stay pretty rooted.
Yes. Beautiful. I love that reframe, that having your core roots so deep doesn't really matter the size of the storm. You might have to sway a little bit, but you're never going to topple over and break because you actually know what you are at the core of it, which is not, the online persona. It's a person that just does that and has a lot of fun doing that. And you said, again, play was woven there a lot. Joy, like this eternal, like golden retriever energy of just like, whoa, this is awesome. Let's keep going.
Here? Yeah. How am I here? It's one of the things I noticed about some of the most successful people that I've had the opportunity to spend time with now. At the top of their games, I've been in rooms with them now. And at the end of the year, I got to, in like a 30-day span, spend a ton of time with Jesse Itzler, Gary Vaynerchuk, and then go to a Tony Robbins seminar. Yeah. And they all sort of have that blissfully unaware energy. But they're just being them. They're just talking about whatever comes up. They're following divine inspiration. They're not trying to make it more serious than it is. They're truly enjoying it. And they really just all seem super happy to be there. And it's not, well, I got this podcast with Steve. I got to show up a certain way today. I got to show up however he thinks I should show up. It's no. If I came in here and I felt a little low and a little down, I'd probably talk about it.
Yes.
And then work my way out of it.
Yeah.
But I felt high energy. I felt charged up. And that's the space, the energy I stepped into the space with. So I would encourage people to don't try to manage your energetic state to show up a way you think people need you to show up. The way people need you to show up is authentically.
Yes.
And just trust that you're where you need to be and that you'll move into the next space when it's time.
Yeah. That's really cool. It's really cool because I had that note about Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, Jesse Itzler, and I was curious, like, what's something you picked up from them, because they're giants, you know. But to hear you say that even at the highest level, what you were picking up probably more than anything was this authenticity thing again.
Pure.
They are just being fully who they are, and look what it created. Look what it got them.
I mean, pure, dude. Like, I think what people love the most is when they can feel, I think we can feel energy of people.
Absolutely.
And when they can feel you are you, and whether I like you or not, you are you, they'll either love you or they'll respect you.
Yeah.
Because Jesse and Gary and Tony couldn't be more different.
Right.
Yet they're at the top of the game because they are so themselves. Jesse's keynotes, Gary's keynotes, completely different. The way that he speaks wouldn't work for me.
Right.
The way that Jesse speaks wouldn't work for me.
Right.
But it's fucking killer to watch.
Yeah.
Because it's him.
Yeah.
And that's the key. I love the quote, "Stop holding back the gift that you are. Someone is waiting to receive it." And if you can just be who you are and stop trying to put up a mask and stop trying to worry about how you're being perceived and all the programming that you're conditioning of being bullied or that your parents told you had to show up as, if you could just strip all that away, you would get to what I believe is the essence that God created you within, your purest form. And that is what people want.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to stay tapped into.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think it's tantamount to your success, obviously, because
Thank you.
people pick up on it. They can smell it. There's as much fakeness is going to come out now, and AI, and we're going to be probably a year from now watching videos. We don't know whether they're real or not real. There is going to be something ancient and intelligent, and it could be the bullshit meter or the soul or something is going to just resonate. Like you said, vibes are real, man. The Wi-Fi is in the air. There's something to this energy thing, and people pick up on it, and it's magnetic or repulsive in some cases. But that's part of the leadership dichotomy, right? Leadership requires rejection. Look at a guy that you are very fond of, started the world's largest religion, Jesus Christ. Look what he created. But some people hated him so much that they put him on a cross and crucified him.
Yep.
And he stood in that, right?
Yep.
And his last words were also, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Like, it's crazy. Talk about authenticity, Maxine. That was top G right there. Like,
authenticity and love.
He did it, you know? And I think that's why it's just so important to try and drive this home, you know, be who you are because everybody else is taken. There's a million cliches for it, but it's still hard to do because of the society that we live in and this somebody training and status games and all of that stuff. And that's kind of what a couple of last questions for you as we bring this one into land, because I think you do a wonderful job of this. And I think it's why people resonate with you. But still, the younger generation now, if you ask them what they want to do, the most common answer is they want to be a content creator. So I think sometimes everybody assumes that it's all sunshine and rainbows and farting pixie dust, but there's realness to it too. And there's being a human and all of that stuff. What do you think people might not know about Michael Smoak? What is the price that one would have to pay to be Michael Smoak?
When I think about that question, I do believe in my bones that I'm lucky beyond expression. I'm blessed. I have been consistent and diligent and haven't missed uploads in years. And I do the work and I love the work. And I truly feel like God has blessed me and I'm just trying to steward it well. I mean, I can't believe that I'm here with you right now and we get to call this work.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's such a gift. But everyone does want to be a content, not everyone, 80-20 rule. So many people want to be creators now. Young kids want to be creators, 23 to 25 to 28-year-olds. People are having this existential crisis, realizing the 9-to-5 matrix is not for them and they want to do something that lights their soul on fire. I tell those people a couple of things. Number one, your work doesn't have to be the thing that lights your soul on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Seek purpose and fulfillment everywhere. I think people that feel like they don't know what their purpose is in life, they just need to go find an opportunity to serve.
Correct.
Or volunteer at a soup kitchen, volunteer at an animal shelter. Call your friends, ask them how they're doing. Just pour into other people.
Have kids.
Have kids. Have kids. That's literally one of, if not the main reason we're here, to procreate. That is the ultimate sources of fulfillment. Is just identify an area to serve, and don't look at your job as a place to find fulfillment. Just look at it as my dad used to say, you shouldn't live to work, you should work to live. And you can like your job and not let it be the thing that sets your soul on fire. But I think what someone might not know about me is that this can all feel very heavy at times. And I give myself permission to let it feel heavy. You know, there are times where I do let myself break down because I miss my old man. And I can sit here and talk about it with joy and know that it's a gift, but also remember how horrible it was. Like, it was graphic, it was traumatizing, and the fact that I just miss him, you know? And that sucks. It fucking sucks sometimes. And I let myself go all the way into that because that's how we move through it. When we process emotion, we don't try to manage it or bury it or ignore it. We get true clarity. And that's where some of my best revelations come from. And I'd say the other thing they don't know about me is what I would extrapolate to this business. Is if you want to be a creator, understand you're an entrepreneur and you're running a business. And people will try to take advantage of you. They will try to leverage your platform if it starts to grow, underpay you, exploit you, mistreat you. And understand that you are in one of the highest failure rate businesses you could probably be in, which is entrepreneurship. You know, I think 90% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to do this and you really want to make a living out of it, every dollar you make or don't make is entirely on you. Every business decision is entirely on you. And all of the pressure to provide, protect, build a life for yourself, your family is entirely on you. There's no safety net. There's no 401k. There's no employer writing you a paycheck. And with that can come incredible fruit and abundance. But it can also come cataclysmic stress.
Yep.
At times. You know, I blew up my entire business in December and revamped the entire thing. I let fitness coaching go to do communication coaching, and I didn't know how the fuck I was going to do that.
Yeah.
But I did it. But I was afraid. And so the piece of advice and the thing that people might not know about me that I'll close with is that I am afraid. I am afraid when I do these things. I am afraid when I go out on this big adventure and I create content and I realize I've got to make a living and provide for a family one day. I'm scared, but I do it anyway. And I think when we do that, when we act boldly, and in my opinion and belief, act out of obedience of what I feel like God is calling me to do, in time, in a way we might not understand, we're rewarded. So it's okay to be afraid, but you still have to act.
Yeah. So fucking real, man. So good. This road trip sounds like it's quite open-ended. How will you know when it's complete?
Oh my gosh, somebody asked me that. Somebody asked me that last weekend. I can't believe you're asking me this right now. Have you ever seen Forrest Gump?
Yes, of course.
You know, when he's running across the U.S. and he gets to the coast or somewhere in the West Coast, it might be in the desert, and he just runs towards the camera and he stops and he goes, I think I'll go home now.
Yeah.
And he turns around and runs back. You know, you said the trip is open-ended, and it is. My only destinations that I know of right now are at some point I want to end up in San Diego by mid-March. I want to go see our friend Chris Griffin in Malibu. And I'm going to be in Boston for the Boston Marathon and then London for the London Marathon. Anything in between,
Yep.
Where I feel called to go, I'm going to go. And that's also so the opposite of how I live my life. I'm normally so regimented and buttoned up. But I'm living in that tension. I love the quote from Key and my coach. There can be no ascension without tension. We move up and level up, and we put ourselves in tense situations, hard conversations, difficult decisions. That's how we really level up. And so I think I'll know it's over in some weird moment of solitude.
Yeah.
I think I'll be in prayer, or I'll be just driving down the road, and I don't think it's going to be this profound moment. I think I'm just going to be driving and go, I think I'll go home now.
Yeah.
I miss my mom. I miss my friends. I think I'll go see them now.
Yeah.
And that could be in April. It could be next year. I'm open to whatever comes up, and I'm really excited for what I'm going to learn about it as I stay completely open to the process.
Fuck yeah, bro. And thank you for bringing us in on the journey and sharing it, because it is wonderful to watch and inspiring, and it gives other people permission to question what they're doing and whether they want to pursue something greater and feel the fear and do it anyway. Because that's the definition of courage, right? This idea that bro, macho, type A alphas don't feel any fear. It's not true. They feel the fear, but they have the courage to leap anyway. It's called a leap of faith for a reason. It's not a leap of certainty. It's not a leap of guarantee. It's a leap of faith. And it's fucking cool.
Thank you,
And I
bro.
celebrate you for doing it, man.
Thank you. If I could leave everybody with this, if you're getting to the end of this episode and you're still here, thank you. 2 things. My motto for 2026 is simple. It's a quote from, I believe, Carl Jung. Where your fear is, there your task is. Figure out what scares you or what you're avoiding and go directly into it. You are going to find out so much about yourself, and you are going to be so glad and know more about your sense of true identity than you ever thought possible if you just do that one thing. And lastly, remember that you have free will. Remember that you can do things. Remember that you can take the trip. Remember you can approach the girl or guy. Remember you can quit the job or start the job. You can do so much more if you just remember that you have free will to do what you love. Build a life and a story that you would be proud to bring someone into. That's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I want to challenge everybody to do this year.
The cave you fear to enter has the treasure you most need. It's a beautiful ally to the quote you just dropped. Permission slips have been given. What are you going to do with it? I'm sure everybody knows where to go to find you, but just in case they don't, please let them know.
Sure. My name's Michael Smoak. The channels across all social media platforms are HigherUp Wellness. I too have a podcast, the HigherUp Podcast. Check it out. I think it's pretty good, but I'm a bit biased. And I hope to see you guys across social media and hopefully, more importantly, somewhere along my trip. Love you guys.
Keep building that law, my friend. You lot, check out Michael. Podcast is excellent, and we'll see you next time. Peace. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Radical Health Radio. If you liked that episode, the good news is we've got hundreds of others just like it, and YouTube thinks you would love this one in particular. So I think you should check it out. We'll see you next week.